Now that he has an idea how it's being made, Alex wants to know more about its origin. Where does it come from, this juniper spirit? So he's heading for, no, not a bar, but the renowned London Tate Gallery. He has an appointment with a famous gin expert who has written several books about gin, the journalist Geraldine Coates. If there ever was a pundit on this subject, it is she. Unfortunately, his German punctuality and her rather relaxed attitude towards time don't exactly match. He has to wait for her, and he hates to wait. Finally, after half an hour, she arrives. The traffic, of course. The reason why they meet at a gallery is because here hangs a picture by the English painter William Hogarth, depicting one of the darkest chapters in the history of gin. Its predecessor, Genever, came from Holland and was originally brought over to England by King William in the year 1690. He hated and boycotted everything French, thereby intending to cut down on the consumption of liqueurs and cognacs. Gin production was widely encouraged. It was cheap, and everybody was allowed to make it. It should surprise no one that this, of course, led to a catastrophic end.
It's a print created by William Hogarth, I think, in 1751. So what it is, it was part of this huge anti-gin craze in the 1730s. So where this piece is set, it was one of the biggest slums in Europe. So then we have, in the sort of 70s and 30s, and particularly in the 1740s, you're now getting a whole lot of crime statistics related to this drinking of gin. And what we should really mention here is this gin was absolutely nothing like the gin that we know today. They put things like oil of vitriol, which is sulfuric acid, into it to clean it up and give it more kick. They flavoured it with oil of turpentine, which would mimic the juniper.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's going, ooh, it was vile, absolutely vile stuff.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like dealing with drugs nowadays, with cocaine or crack.
Exactly. I mean, it was the crack cocaine of its day. It would also have been very, very sweet because they put a lot of sugar in it to hide these terrible flavours.
That's a hangover on the next.
It was a hangover instantly.
If we look at that picture, it's like I see this mother with a child falling down.
Yes, there was an incredible statistic which I'll talk about very quickly, which was something like for every baptism in London in the 1740s, there was a funeral of a child.
For every baptism, there was one funeral.
One funeral. Then you see this woman here. She's giving
her child gin. Why would she do that?
To sedate them. It was also, they didn't have anything else to give them. They just gave them what they had.
Gin.
So there was a stat from 1751 that 9,000 children in London died of alcohol poisoning
from direct drinking. 9,000 children.
Yeah.
And in these days, London had a population of how many? 500,000. So 9,000.
Yeah, it's
500,000, and 9,000 of them died from alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. So what happened then, really, by 1751, they actually introduced a law that worked for the first time. So this law, so this was very much around the time of this. This law specified who could, so it wiped out all of that. Anybody could sell gin, anyone could make gin. It made it so that you had to have a proper distillery and proper licenses, and you had to pay duty on the output, and this was all, absolutely easy. But actually...
Did that work fast?
Yes, it kind of began to work, but the thing that really worked was that in 1757 there was a disastrous crop failure. So actually, all distilling was banned that year because there was no grain. There was no surplus grain, so it couldn't go to the... It couldn't. So in the end, it wasn't so much the sort of moralist or the legislation. In the end, it was practicality. There was no grain.
Okay.